My name is Lisa Pachence. I am a executive life coach for millennial leaders, specifically women. So I'm in good company right here with Michelle and Sherry. I am going to be talking about how coaches and leaders can thrive in the age of COVID. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this works out. Cross your fingers, wish me luck. Let's see how this works. Application window. All right. Going for it. I'm going for it. All right, let's see. Click twice to maximize video. Do I maximize? Can people see my presentation? See my presentation? Nope. Okay. Nope. All right. Well, I am going to, let's see. I don't want to share my entire screen. Share, let's try one more time. I am a millennial. I should know my tech. Yep, still not coming up. All right. I'm just going to go for it. Honestly, it's a better conversation to just actually speak to you about what I'm going to speak about, because this is incredibly applicable on a personal level. And I'd rather we actually have a conversation and you get to see my pretty face. So it's all good. As a way of introduction, again, my name is Lisa Pachence. I'm an executive life coach for leaders. And I live in Philadelphia. That's actually how I got to know Gracie. And right now we have a very large thunderstorm right out the door. Luckily, my power hasn't gone out just yet. But the reason why I got into coaching was because I reached a point in my life where I was totally stuck in about a 7 out of 10 life. I really wanted to learn how to manage my emotions. I wanted to learn how to be a leader. And I was totally mystified by the idea of how to go about doing that. And what I learned in my journey, I ended up meeting a life coach. I ended up working on some stuff. And I was like, oh, she's going to give me some tools and I'm going to learn some stuff and take some notes and off I go. But I learned that in order to truly be a coach, in order to truly help people to change their lives, to be a leader of men and women, I needed to work on myself. This was a deep level, transformative type of leadership process. And that's actually the thing that excites me most when I work with people. Leadership isn't about knowledge. It's not about knowing your stuff. It's not about having the right answer. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about being able to come from within, to be authentic, to not know the answer, and to learn how to pivot and be flexible in the moment. As human beings, we tend to be kind of rigid. We like knowing the answer. We like, emotional intelligence is so important. We like knowing the answer. We like being able to have control, to know where we're going. But in a modern society, that actually just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so I spent a lot of time working on this. My cat's about to crawl in my lap. Excuse her while she makes herself comfortable. She does what she wants. So in addition to being an executive life coach for leaders, I'm also a coach training program leader for a company called Accomplishment Coaching. And Accomplishment Coaching is a coach training program in New York and Chicago. So I actually work as a professional coach trainer, helping baby coaches be able to do what I do, because I'm only one person. I want to be able to have an impact on so many people. So not only do I have my own coaching company and work with people, but I also train leaders and coaches how to lead in an impactful and connected way. So I want to share a little bit about the state of the coaching and consulting industry right now. And I know a lot of us here are coaches, consultants, we're thought leaders. And I actually believe that all three categories come together: coaching, consulting, being a leader. It's kind of the same. If you're really good at what you do, if you truly care, if you're genuine, leaders will coach and consult, and coaches will lead. So in the coaching industry right now, we are kind of all suffering from the same thing. We are impacted by COVID. We're impacted by the racial injustices. We are impacted by everything going on because, we're human. No matter how zen or mindful you can be, Sherry, I know you're human, and I love your story because you bring your humanity with you. You say, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to rely on breathing and connecting and my knowledge and love of what I do. So same thing with all industries, the coaching industry, the consulting industry, being a leader, we are all impacted by the coronavirus and what's going on. Now, the thing about evolved leaders and coaches is that from our experience, we actually work the best in crises. Our job is to face crises and to face difficult situations with an ability to pivot and to be flexible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of crises and confrontation. So when we're in crisis, when we're in pandemic, when we're faced with the unknown, with rage, with anger, our minds go into survival mode. We get pushed to the back of our brains where we're in that scarcity mindset. We're in our amygdalas, the part of our brains that goes, okay, we have to survive this. Your safety is of utmost importance. And a lot of times our safety actually isn't truly in danger. I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes, you don't want to walk across 76 in front of a bunch of cars going 65 miles per hour. Not a good idea. So we need our survival mechanism. But a lot of times our survival mechanism isn't of best use in these situations, because what it does is it makes decisions based on scarcity, urgency, short term, and danger of death. So in light of the protests, the rioting, people lifting up their voices for change, it's easy to stand in defense of what we know or to go to battle for what we know because it's something that we're afraid of. A lot of us are afraid of facing new things. So when we're in those positions where we're facing something entirely new, we're mentally operating from this place of fight, flight, or freeze. So going back to what I originally was talking about, the coaching industry, the consulting and leadership industry, it's so, so vital for us to be doing our own work, not just to be dispensing knowledge, not just to be standing for other people and, telling other people what to do. It is so important we do our own work so that we can be clear, we can be present, we can hold the space for other people, and we can make decisions based on the long term instead of what we're terrified of not having. Thank you, Sherry. Yes, I agree. So on the other hand, the coaching industry and authentic leadership is really built on the ability to be with our fears, to be with problems, with change, with confrontations, with crises differently. So in our businesses and in leadership, our job is to teach other people to be with the unknown, to be with problems, and then to rise to the occasion with their own inner wisdom. Overall, that's what's needed right now in the pandemic, in what's going on in Philadelphia and Chicago and the racial injustices across the country. We need to be able to pivot with the change, and mental health, emotional support is most needed right now. So I'm going to get a little bit more. It looks like I'm actually running out of time. Same thing with Ashley. I have a problem with over communication. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing some of the best tools to be able to rise to the occasion and be a leader in the face of our fears. So the people who will be able to rise as leaders, to be looked at as thought leaders, as business owners, as pioneers of this time, are those who are going to be able to do four things. There's four key metrics of thriving inside of of COVID-19 and of crises in general. And look, people are looking for leaders. Our businesses are looking for leaders. When you're networking, they're looking for leaders, for people who can provide topics, provide resources, provide opportunities to better themselves. So here are the 4 keys to rising and thriving as a leader and a business owner during this time. The first key is to be able to relate. So to be able to empathize, to not skip over emotion and whatever is in the space. This is so, so key. Active listening is one of the biggest pillars of resilience. It's one of the keys of being a great leader. It's one of the keys of having and being in successful long-term relationships as well. So the second thing is to create, to be flexible, to change and create as the world does. The third key is to collaborate, to be able to partner with others humbly and bring them under your umbrella. And then the fourth key to rising and thriving in COVID is to find meaning. Now, a lot of these things will actually lead you to productivity and business success, but that is actually going to be another conversation and another webinar that I'll give later. Right now, I'm talking about the mindset that's going to be able to bridge this time, to bridge 2020 and all of the things that we're dealing with, and so that you can be even more impactful as a leader, as a thought leader, and as a business owner. So the first key to rise during COVID and beyond is to relate. So Brene Brown says, and if you don't know who Brene Brown is, you have to get on the interwebs and look her up. She's absolutely amazing. She wrote this book called Dare to Lead. It is phenomenal. Brene Brown says that leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and productive behavior. Do not skip over feelings. Empathy is important because it helps you to create meaningful relationships. By acknowledging and addressing something, by saying, oh, it sounds like you're really angry. It often actually reduces the power for ourselves and for others by naming the thing, by putting it out in the space and going, yes, I'm afraid. There's fear here. It actually reduces the power. Interestingly enough, empathizing, not sympathizing, but empathizing, yeah, this sucks. We're afraid. We're in the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. I need some support. All of those phrases are helpful to empathize. Empathy is shown to reduce stress. By you empathizing with someone else, or by you receiving empathy in a moment of unknown, in a moment of stress, it actually reduces your stress. It demonstrates that you're not alone, that what you're going through is normal, and it also means that there's a way out. So lastly, empathy is the antidote to disconnect. The thing that prevents us from understanding other people's viewpoints from an emotionally invested point of view allows you to connect. So to be able to connect with someone through empathy, actually, it demolishes the divide. It actually allows you to connect with the other person, helps the other person feel seen and heard. So a lot of times when you're facing confrontation with someone else, taking a moment to empathize and to acknowledge what's in the space actually reduces conflict. It allows you to build trust. It says, yes, I hear you, I see you, I understand. So a good practice for leaders to take on during this time is to take 4 steps when you're empathizing. The first is to acknowledge that there's something in the space. Hey, we can't ignore this anymore. We can't ignore that our business is impacted. We can't ignore that there's violence and unrest and injustice right now. The second thing is to speak it out loud, to say what is actually real for you, and ask the other person to do that too. Hey, what are you feeling right now? The third thing is to look at what you need or what the other person needs. Hey, what do you actually need to address this in the moment? How can I help? And then the last thing is to look at how you can have your feelings and move forward at the same time. Now, for employers, this is so, so key. We don't want to spend time marinating in our feelings of fear, but we do want to be able to acknowledge it as we move on. So the second key to rising and thriving in the age of COVID for leaders and coaches is to create, to be creative, to access that creativity muscle in your brain and allow for things like pivoting, things like putting out new courses, new packages. Everything is now virtual. How do you pivot? You must access that creativity muscle in your brain. And the best way to elicit your creativity is to have blank space in your calendar. The best way I know how to do this is to go for a walk, leave your phone behind, and allow yourself to think and to have blank space. This actually elicits and calls for the creativity in your mind that you might have, let's say, filled with some numbness, with wanting to sit and watch Netflix or be on social media or call that person. Being alone with yourself is the best way to elicit creativity. And for leaders, having blank space in your calendar is a must. If you don't have it, put it in right now. When are you going to have blank space in your calendar for creativity, to think strategically, to think big picture? So the third key is collaboration. When facing change, we need community more than ever. And it's actually in our DNA to seek connection and camaraderie. I know that when we're emotionally fatigued, we want to withdraw, we get kind of introverted, we want to numb out. That's actually the time to lean in. That's the time to go, okay, who can I call? Who can I collaborate with? Maybe I'll connect with Ashley. She seems like the perfect strategic partner. Maybe she can provide some tools, some resources, maybe just a place to vent. Sherry is another wonderful person to call, to lean into, to look at collaboration. So in your projects, as a leader, employee, or a person, take a look. Who can you partner with around your projects, around your life, around the unknown elements? What if you could do the same thing that you're doing, but in partnership with someone? Even getting a mentor on board or having an accountability partner is so, so useful. So the fourth way that leaders and coaches can thrive in the age of COVID is to find meaning. So this means identifying your core values and not just giving it lip service, but actually living into them, living into your values. Brene Brown talks a lot about this in her Dare to Lead course, which is, it's all about being able to be a courageous leader, to face the tough conversations, and then be able to challenge yourself to stick with your values. What are ways that you avoid your values in tough situations? What are ways that you exhibit your values in tough situations? And practice stepping away from the avoidance and stepping into your values in tough situations. You cannot relate, create, and collaborate without having a true north. You will be, at best, making decisions based on the short term unless you have a set of core values that you live by. So the best way to do this is to take a look at your life in the toughest situations where you were resilient, where you rose to the occasion and you won or achieved something that was particularly difficult. What were your personal values, the meaning that you clung to that carried you through those things? So take some time, put it in your calendar, maybe use that creative space and sit down and think about your core values. Identify your core values. If you already have them and they're part of your company or they're part of your life, bring them back out. How are you living by your core values? How are you not living by your core values? What are some ways that you can integrate your core values more practically in your business so that you can rise and thrive? As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, people are looking for leaders. And leaders are the people who, as Ashley was talking about before, are those who position themselves as thought experts in their industry. And thought leaders always have a set of values that they live by. that is what gives them the ability to be able to have high-level conversations, to be impactful. They're led by their core values. So if you're interested in learning more about how to identify your core values, what that looks like, feel free to contact me, to put your email in the chat box. I can send you some information. I have a presentation on how to identify your core values if you haven't already. I'm happy to email that to you afterwards. And I'm sure that Gracie will probably be sending my information along as well. So as coaches, leaders, and business owners, and honestly, as human beings, we need to be able to have these 4 core elements in any situation of change. We have to relate. We have to be able to empathize and slow down and understand what's going on with our emotions. We need to be able to create, to access our creativity, to be flexible, to pivot, to get out of our own way. We need to be able to collaborate, to find partnership, to lean into the discomfort, to ask for help. And we need to be able to find meaning, to stick to our core values, to come back to what's meaningful to us, and to find our true north.